Okay, let's talk about it. Hi, everyone. Thank you for your love and support. Wow. Thank you for sticking with me and not abandoning me. My imperfect self. Dr. Whimsy is imperfect. Anybody know that about me? I am imperfect. I am an imperfect human being. I'm not a guru. I'm just a person with issues, just like the rest of you. I have good days. I apologize when I'm having a bad day, but please forgive me if my imperfections are more than you can take some days. Anyway, hopefully the sound is okay. Let's check the sound. Sound good? Yes, I think the sound is good. Great to see you all here. I just wanted to come on briefly and talk a little bit. The last time I was asked to do a remote view about the situation that's happening right now in Iran, and I kept saying Iran. I guess I'm such a Westerner. Iran. The last time I was asked to go in and check Iran's, scan the grid, there were a couple of things I found out. I didn't feel that Ali Khamenei was dead. I felt that he was still alive. I felt that he was with his family based on, uh, I do HCRB, heart centered remote viewing, and um, I didn't feel at that time he was dead. This looked more like it was preferable for him to be arrested and tried. If he dies a martyr. If he's humiliated in court and forced to answer questions about the book he wrote, which justified everything from having sex with babies to murdering and raping women, and his true face will be shown, and and the horror of having somebody like that hold your country hostage. These are the reasons why it's better to capture him and put him on trial, you know, grant him a fair and speedy trial and let the people judge him would be better, and it would diminish his power in the outside world. He would begin to lose support as the truth came out about all of the crimes. Whereas if you kill him, he dies a martyr. So if we're just thinking about long-term strategy, that is the best strategy. If you just try and objectively, what will the long-term consequences of these actions be, right? I was also asked if I could do a remote view on Donald Trump. Again, I use HCRV, which is not the conventional remote viewing. The technique we use is based on the Bond technique. And so what we do is we do something very similar to what you see in certain types of Vajrayana Buddhism and Tantra, where we attempt to open our heart and fully take in and listen and hear the other person until we become one with the other person. And then we are able to see through the eyes of the other person as if we are them. And this technique builds empathy, and it's also part of the art of war, because we're able to strategize, we're able to think about the long-term consequences, and we're also able to put ourselves completely in the shoes of the person that we have opposition to. Hopefully, by doing this technique, we can avoid war, right? The idea is of these techniques is that we want to avoid war. We don't want to go to war. We don't want to kill people. You know, that's the goal, right? So what we found when we went into the remote on Donald Trump is we found that he was saying 2 weeks, but that he was going to attack sooner than 2 weeks. And the purpose of saying 2 weeks was to make the people believe, oh, we've got 2 weeks to negotiate, and then you hit them 4 days later. So this is one of the military strategies where the person is left thinking, oh, we can relax and have a nice conversation. We don't have to get nervous. We've got 2 weeks to communicate with our enemy. And So they let down their guard a little bit. And then just when they think that they're going to be able to delay or work it out, that's the point at which you attack. And so that is actually a strategy. And when we went into the energy, that is in fact what we found. One of the things that I'm doing in my private life, which is separate from this, is that I'm getting my second PhD, and and I was working on trying to create systems that would promote peace and stability in the Middle East. And part of that was that I was working with supercomputers to try and find out if we could avoid war. And I've shown you all of this. It was a message I sent to United Arab Emirates. I sent it first to the IDF, and it was based on what the supercomputers had said. Then I sent it also to the United States. I sent it to Joe Biden, etc., the president. I also sent it to his State Department. And the purpose was to try and see if they agreed with me. Had they ever looked at it this way? Had they ever, had they ever gone in and asked? Well, I'm sure they had. Isn't most of the military today all about trying to keep people? A lot of military research is about calculating least amount of deaths, right? So a lot of military research is not about killing. A lot of military research is how do we keep people alive? And so what you do is you use supercomputers, and you put yourself through game theory, and you basically just try to figure out how can we prevent World War III. And so I began fiddling with this as part of the broader part of my PhD. I'm an anthropologist. This is my second doctorate. I'm a medical anthropologist, and I build peace systems, right? So that was my PhD. And this is what I got with my supercomputers, and then sent it to the military, to the Americans and the Israelis. And then eventually I sent it to members of the Abraham Accords. And what we found in that data collection was that if you look at phase 5, that there was no way to avoid World War III, that we were moving statistically close to 1 minute to midnight. And so you have here 5 that Iranian leadership had to be dismantled. 4, Putin would have to be not necessarily assassinated, but he would probably go, if we can't try him in the Hague. I also did remote viewings. So I looked at Putin. Well, let's get this guy in the Hague. That's what I would like to see. But when I put myself in the shoes of the other, remote viewing, and then I had also done some research, Russians really don't hand their leadership to the West. Not Yeltsin, not, well, Gorbachev was considered a hero, but they wouldn't be handing over their people from the Kremlin. Instead, they would encourage the person to retire to their villa in Siberia or somewhere. And so that's probably just based on what I could figure out as a remote viewer, but also as a researcher using computers, that Putin would, he's had many times attempted assassinations. There was a long time he was protected by a lot of oligarchs. Not every oligarch likes him, but some do, because he turned a blind eye to a lot of corruption, Putin. And so for that reason, a lot of oligarchs put up with Putin, because it was, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I sell drugs, and I'm engaged in, say, human trafficking, drug trafficking, etc., like Prigozhin. Right? He would be an example of that. And so he would be an oligarch that had a great relationship, because he was making $1 billion a year off of the Russian economy, and basically bankrupted the Russian economy. But these were the 5 phases we got to using supercomputers. So, and then when I put myself in the shoes of Trump, like I said, it showed that the data is the data. This is why Joe Biden embraced the first 3 phases of the 5 phases, was because phases 1, 2, and 3 were adopted by Biden and by the Israelis because their data, they were using Colossus compute. They were using the same, we were all using the same computers and asking the same questions. So ceasefire, exchange of hostages, prisoners, lure Hamas to a host country so the people can rebuild. Phase 3. This was Biden, and I came to the same conclusions. Mine was December 2023. I think his came out. Was it that May? Because they needed time to do their own research, and I think that mine got thrown in with everybody else's research. But this was pretty much the conclusion that the researchers came to, was these 3 phases that we saw adopted by Biden. And phases 4 and 5 took years to plan. The isolating of Putin, who's now, he's losing the war, and he knows he's losing the war, and dismantling of Iranian leadership. Finally, one of the things that I was asked to take a look at was whether or not Russia and Iran could join the Abraham Accords. They had wanted to in order to get, the money, the benefits of that trade route. And what was discovered was not to make a deal with them, because the money would have been used to rearm and attack the West, Israel, etc. So it was important to understand that no such deal based on the data could ever take place between the West, Russia, and Iran, because it would only be used against, the profits would be used against us down the line, because we haven't changed the minds and the opinions of the people. So basically, I put this through multiple times, multiple questions. It was pretty intense. I had I had friends of mine that were so sick of talking to me about it. I can't listen anymore because I just became obsessed with this data. And once I got the data, I was pretty like, oh my God, we're going to have to take out Putin and Iran. There's no way. We have no choice. So it was interesting to see this, and that is in fact where we're heading. So when Trump said, well, I'll think about it, I thought that doesn't make any sense, because they already had the data. I knew that I was right about my data when I heard Joe Biden say the 3 phases. It was like, okay, the computer is telling us all the same thing. It's not like they're telling Whimsy something different than they're telling the rest of the military. So that is the results of supercomputers. I used Colossus. I used a couple of them. And I did that because I wanted to see if there was any variation in the artificial intelligence that I was using. And I used several, came to the same conclusions. And so by December of 2023, we knew that Iran was going to fall. And we knew, and the United States, Joe Biden knew. So it didn't really matter. This is the point that I want to convey to people, is that it didn't really matter whether it was Donald Trump or Joe Biden. We knew where we were headed. There was and is resistance from people like the oligarchs. Some of them are American oligarchs, like Elon Musk, who felt like it was going to be disastrous to attempt to assassinate or isolate somebody who is popular. There's a lot of discussion about Russia not being a free country, and that the voting for Putin is not free and fair. But Putin controls the media, so it's always good news every day in Russia, because they control the news. And so for that reason, you could argue that is why Putin is so popular. You don't really have to steal the election when you've stolen people's minds and you're controlling them. And then you try to put yourself in the shoes of the Russians, who feel that their country and its economy, etc., was destroyed by the collapse of the Soviet Union. Are there people trying to kill Putin? Yes. Are there people protesting? Yes. But if the average person in a village, in Siberia, would probably still be strongly committed to Putin, and would probably blame the West. They're not blaming Putin, they're blaming us. Every time somebody dies in Ukraine, it's further proof that the West is evil and that Putin is right. When you put yourself in their shoes, same as if Nazis killed a bunch of Americans, you wouldn't blame the Americans. You wouldn't blame Roosevelt, right? So when you really try to put yourself in the shoes of the other, you have to really put yourself in the shoes of the other. So if it was fair and free elections and all the candidates were free and open to debate, would Putin still win? Probably yes. Because of this control of the media, control of the narrative, and this idea that the United States has destroyed the united USSR, right, by tearing the states apart, right? So this is the narrative that I think is really hard for us to, as Americans, to understand. I just wanted to throw some cards to see about the future. We know, for example, the fall of Libya with Gaddafi, it led to a lot, the loss of infrastructure. And in some cases, you can create a government that's even worse. People are worried about the future of Syria because former members of Al-Qaeda are now in positions of power in Syria. People are worried about Libya for the same reason. That Gaddafi was actually a moderate voice compared to the people that went in. Same with Iraq, that Saddam Hussein was more an atheist than anything else, that he allowed tolerance. People were walking around in miniskirts, etc. And so these secular dictators all went to the wayside and were taken over by these religious extremists that dismantled the infrastructure of those countries and created systems that were even worse than what had been there before. Will this be the future of Iran? So we're going to go ahead and do a reading and find out what the future holds. Let's take a look. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together, collectively, we say, Amen. Yeah, so it just felt to me like it was a delay tactic to make them think that there was a possibility that they had time and that it had already been decided because we had the data 2.5 years ago. All right. What is Trump going to do, and what is the future of Iran? I'm kind of nervous. You know, we want good things for the people of Iran, and we want peace for them. We can see the Queen of Cups moving in. So big dreams. There are people that have big, big dreams for the country, and she rubs her lamp. So you could argue that this is a time when there is there's hope in the air. It feels like there's a hope and a dreaming aspect to this, that people suffered for a very long time. A lot of good people were tortured and murdered by this regime. It was a very perverted regime. And now we have the dreaming. We have the time of the dreaming. We also have something very auspicious, which is the Six of Pentacles, which is that justice will reign. For those who deserve justice, they will receive it. We have that nice Libra energy coming in there with that balance of the scales, and that he who deserves will receive, and he who does not, who deserves to be, you know, in exile or denied. So we have two aspects, he who receives and he who is denied, with the balance of scales. So basically justice is coming to Iran, the dream of the free Iran. where we're at right now, a judgment is upon Iran. So it's a very spiritual place. It has a beautiful history. You look at Persia, the music, the art, the poetry, medicine. The first hospitals were built in Persia. You look at the barefoot doctors, which I've talked about in the past, using Tarot, the 5 elements that we see, 5 element theory, which is also found in the Tarot. That's why I love the Tarot. These were used by barefoot doctors that brought in the 5 element TCM. I recently an acupuncturist was like, really? Air, metal? Yes. So we talked about metal in the swords, and we also see the ethers in air associated with lungs, metal, and earth, and large intestine, right? So what I like about the cards is that you're able to see everything, including all of the energies that go into the experience of life. But Persia, we have a judgment over Persia, but we also have to understand there is really good karma over Persia, in the sense that Persia gave great things to the world. And so in a sense, we, humanity, like, thank you, Persia, for the math and the sciences and the hospitals and the art and the food and the culture and the music and the poetry and the Sufis and Zoroaster, all these wonderful, beautiful, ancient wisdom that has come from this great part of the world. But we have a judgment coming down, and then we have a crossing card. Yes, the Shah comes back. The Shah will come back, not to rule. They don't want that. He comes to be a stabilizing force, to remind people again of their culture, their heritage, because it was not the Shia. I think, doesn't Shia come originally from Iraq? It was a split that took place between two families that were descendants of the Prophet Muhammad, right? So really, this is a place that had more, the history was more Jewish, Zoroastrianism, and then the Jews of Persia. If you look at the story of Esther, which Queen Esther, she was married to a Persian king. And of course, you have this beautiful poetry of the Sufis, which was a kind of enlightened spiritual relationship with God through music and chanting. What is above is 6 of Cups. The old love is returning. So I'm going to come a little bit over here so you guys can see these cards a little better. I want you to be able to enjoy your reading a little bit. Require that to come up a little bit for you there. Hopefully that brings it better into focus for you all. But you can see the old love returns, and you can see that ruler is the king. And they can't run, they can't go, and they can't escape. So Israel and the West has taken complete control of the skies at this point, and they're basically under lockdown. 9 of Wands. They can't get into. They can't get out. Pakistan, Afghanistan, they can't get out. Their doors have been locked. Love, and then 5 of Swords. The weapons have been taken away from the enemy. 5 of Swords. So this is to dismantle. God, I really hope they're able to try Ali Khamenei, because that is really what is the most righteous, fair thing. And it's what the people need to heal, is to see him on trial. Their friends and families were raped, murdered, slaughtered, and killed. And for the healing of this nation, it is far better to have a trial than to just kill him. For their healing, they need to talk about it, right? As we heal from trauma, if you have a collective PTSD, we need to talk about this, right? We need to talk about what this abuser did to us, did to our families, forced us to leave our homes. We lost our homes, our families, our children to this. We lost our freedom, right? So, but right now, I don't think people are able to leave. There's a lockdown. People have to stay where they're at. And the immediate environment, an inverted 4 of Cups, which would indicate a cooperation. So before it was no, we absolutely not. Four of Cups is there's some kind of acknowledgement here of surrender. The opposition, heartbroken. So they are heartbroken about what this situation, hopes and fears the future, and the sword of truth is over Iran. This is Archangel Michael, and he carries the sword of truth. He also fights the devil and wins. So that's why, we think of angels when we think of the pages, children, angels, messengers. Malachim in Hebrew is messengers. So when we think about the four angels that are associated, the angel who carries the sword is Michael. And in answer to the person who wanted to see metal element, and then we see the clouds, the ethers, this would be the relationship in Chinese medicine of air and metal. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead. We'll do a clarification here, and we have the world. So there is this great rejoicing in the world. There is this great rejoicing in the world. There are masters coming to create a new constitution for Iran. So we're going to see these masters coming in and attempting, there it is, the justice. I'm telling you, people will go to court. They will be, it's not just going to be Ali Khamenei. It's going to be his henchmen that survived. This is the new Nuremberg. This is courts. This is judgment. This is justice. You can see the Six of Swords is the karma, and also they want court cases. They want these people on trial, and they want to be able to give their victims testimony. No, we don't want them dead. We want these crazy people, these jailers, and the people that were part of the secret police, the religious police. We want them on trial. We want to give our voice, and we want the world to know that's the man that raped and killed my daughter. That's the man that beat my sister to death. That's the man that hung my brother, right? So there's this need to have the courts. The world must know what was done to us under this regime. Justice and truth. And then the final outcome, it is the time of the women. It is the time of justice. It is the time that which is hidden will be revealed. So we think about the high priestess as the hidden is revealed, and the power, the mystical power of the women. And this is something that's come up quite a bit over Iran, is this idea that the people will be led by strong women. The queen, I believe, is still alive, right? So she may be able to pass. Return home again, right? So I want to do 4 cards on Trump. He just gave his statement. I don't know if everybody saw that on X. Yes, he was quite proud of himself, wasn't he? All right, it looks like I'm not logged on. But so Trump was talking about, they hit 3 nuclear sites. So that is what's going on there. Just want to check. Now, people were worried about Trump's health. I will show you a picture. Trump's hand. It looked like people were worried about him because he had some bruising on his hand, right? So his hand was bruised, and there was a conversation, if people could have a conversation of what, doctors, healthcare providers, what we think. I'm a doctor, and, if you're a doctor or a healthcare provider, you might have an opinion, but I'll give you my opinion about what I think this is. They said that here's the bruise. You can see it here. The area here looks to be where there was an insertion of a butterfly needle. You can see right about here. actually, I'm further down. You can see here is the point. Here is the vein that comes through, and probably right about here, I don't know if you can see that, is where he, can you guys see that? Am I able to use my pin thing? But right about here is where the needle went in. You can see that here. And it looks like they must have popped some capillaries. So this appears to be the insertion site for a butterfly. So they might have run an IV. So why would they have run an IV and put a butterfly in? And this type of bruising is something we'll see with somebody who's on Plavix. You know, this kind of a vulnerability of the capillaries. If you've had a stent placed and if you had a stent placed and they put you on Plavix, you might be more vulnerable to bruising. And it looks like an IV was inserted here. And this looks like possible makeup was applied to cover it up. I'm just seeing some makeup here, some orange makeup, just to cover it up. So it could be either Plavix. The other thing could be that, you know, corticosteroids can also inhibit protein synthesis and create fragility in the connective tissue. So somebody who is on Plavix or somebody who is on corticosteroids for a long period of time. Corticosteroids are given to people who have, for example, COPD, reducing inflammation to make it easier to breathe. Some people may have COPD because they have a long history of smoking. It could be something, complications post-COVID. My inclination is more to go with Plavix. That this is the hands that I usually see in my patients on Plavix that have had stents placed. And I'm going to go ahead because of the color distortion right over here. I'm thinking that this is the point where they had run an IV. It could be that it was a blood draw, you know, just a simple blood draw. If he went to the doctors and they said, okay, we're going to run some labs. So they did a butterfly and they did a blood draw. And if he's on something like Plavix, it would have made him prone to bruise from something, just a common blood draw. So that is the direction I'm going in. If it was an IV for dehydration, we wouldn't be giving it we wouldn't be using a butterfly like that at that location. Usually when you're using a butterfly at that location, it's because we're doing a blood draw and we're running some labs. He didn't feel good. When I went into his energy, I felt like crap, like I had the flu. Maybe he went to the doctors. I don't feel so good. Okay, we'll run some labs. They ran some labs. This is the point of the insertion for the needle. And he had, his capillaries were fragile. I'm leaning towards Plavix, given his medical, what I believe is his medical history based on his diet and age. That's where my head is at. If other physicians here are going in another direction, I'd love to hear it. Nurses, by all means. But I'm not diagnosing. I'm not prescribing. I'm simply saying where my mind goes as a doctor seeing his hand. So yeah, that's basically my feedback. I was asked to give feedback about it, and that's kind of how I feel about it. All right. Let me know what you think. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out here. If you're trying to get in for a reading with me, you can book me through Booksy. It's a really easy thing to do. And then I just call you at the appointed time. I am in Portland, Oregon, so I'm 3 hours behind you. If you book at noon in New York, I'm going to call you at 3 o'clock. Right? So just add 3 hours if you're on the East Coast. I always have to tell people that. All right. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.